Buying luggage online can be tricky. You're about to drop maybe a couple $100 on something you've never seen in real life, and the last thing you want is to end up with an overpriced piece of junk you regret buying. So, as someone who's bought and reviewed a lot of luggage from the internet, in this video, I'm gonna give you an in-depth buyer's guide on how to shop for luggage without seeing it in person. I'll share some red flags you need to avoid and the 7 things I'm on the lookout for every time I buy a bag. But before we dive into specific features, it's important to think about what type of travel you're doing. An overnight business trip is very different than exploring Europe for 10 days. But trip length and bag size aren't perfectly correlated. The bag you take on a 10-day trip isn't gonna be 10 times bigger than the overnight bag. And in fact, I would argue the longer your trip, the more conscious you should be about size and weight because you'll be lugging it around for longer. Whether you check or carry on, you're gonna be presented a range of size options. For checked bags, I almost always recommend a medium checked instead of a large. No matter the size of your bag, you're always gonna pack it full. But a large checked bag almost guarantees you'll be skirting the weight limit. A medium checked bag gives you plenty of space, but it makes it easier to come in under weight. With carry-ons, many companies offer both a carry-on and a bigger carry-on or carry-on plus size. Couple things here. First, the larger of the two is probably only going to work with US airlines. Second, and most important, that phrase carry-on honestly means nothing and you need to vet it. Companies use phrases like carry-on size or fits most airlines all the time, even when their bags don't actually meet airlines rules. Nobody's policing these terms and there's no universal standard anyways. In the US, there's kind of a rule of thumb. It's like 22 by 14 by 9. And in Europe and Asia, it's even smaller. So the carry-on option presented by a lot of these companies should be close to that 22 by 14 by 9 number. And the bigger option is gonna be bigger than that. But don't trust the names. Look at the measurements. Find the actual external dimensions with wheels and handles included. What can be even worse is companies will call a bag their 20-inch spinner, but when you measure it with wheels and handles included, it's actually like 23, which is so frustrating. The key thing when you hit a product page is to find the bullet with the actual specs and then compare those to your airline's restrictions. I got really tired of doing this manually, so my team and I made a free tool that has the restrictions of over 170 airlines worldwide. You just punch in your dimensions and you'll see in an instant if your bag fits or not. You can get it at the link in the description below or at willmybagfit.com. And don't forget, weight matters too. With a whole lot of European and Asian airlines, the weight limit is gonna be between 7 and 10 kilograms, which is only 15 to 22 pounds. If the bag you're considering is 9 pounds empty, you're not gonna have much room to work with. Now, if you're traveling internationally, there's another headache you wanna solve before you ever leave home, which is how you'll get mobile data. As someone who's been traveling internationally for over 20 years, one of my mantras is to maximize your time on the ground, which means the last thing I want to do after landing in a new country is fumble with airport kiosks or mess with SIM cards. I just want to start the trip. And that is why I am such a big proponent of today's video sponsor, Olafly. Olafly makes eSIMs, which give you connectivity in over 200 destinations worldwide without swapping SIM cards, without surprise roaming charges, and my favorite, without standing in line trying to get your phone to work. You simply scan a QR code before you leave home, and the moment you land, you're connected. My family and I have used Olafly across Europe, Asia, and North America, and it's worked flawlessly every time. You get unlimited data in over 200 destinations, so we're never worrying about signal strength or overage limits. We get to just land and start enjoying our trip. If you've got international travel coming up, I would just skip the SIM hunt altogether. Hit the link in the description below and use the code AWAYTOGETHER for 5% off your eSIM purchase. Big thanks to Olafly for sponsoring today's video. Now that you know what size you're looking for, let's talk bag construction. Should you go hard shell or soft shell? Hard shell bags typically have a sleeker aesthetic. They're more water resistant and they're easier to wipe clean, but they scratch and scuff more easily. And because they open clamshell style, you typically need more room to pack and unpack. Soft shells have a little more give to them when you're trying to squeeze them into an overhead bin, and they're almost always gonna come with some kind of exterior pocket for quick access. The downside is they don't protect as well in rough handling, and they'll soak through in heavy rain. From a materials perspective, if you go hard shell, I'd look for polycarbonate. It's kind of the sweet spot of durability and weight. ABS is cheaper, but it's gonna crack more easily. And aluminum cases are pretty, they're very durable, but they're also really heavy and they get super dinged up after like 2 trips. For soft shell, you're typically choosing between nylon or polyester, and nylon is gonna be the tougher and more abrasion resistant choice. If it's indicated, a higher denier number tells you it has increased durability. All right, let's talk about wheels. You're gonna go 2 wheels or 4. There's pros and cons for each. 2-wheel rollers tend to use larger recessed wheels that are a bit sturdier, and they tend to give you a little more packing space inside. 4-wheel spinners glide really smooth, they spin 360 degrees, but the wheels can be smaller and more fragile. Now, if you're going with 360-degree spinning luggage, I highly recommend cases that have 8 wheels. It looks like they have 4, but it's actually 4 sets of wheels, with each mechanism having 2 wheels on it. If your bag has just 4 wheels and one goes out, it's gonna be like getting that cart at the grocery store, which can be very frustrating. I'd also pay attention to the type of wheel you're getting. You want something sturdy, quiet, and smooth. For 2-wheel bags, these thicker rollerblade style wheels on the Bellroy Light carry-on are amazing. On 4-wheel bags, some of the smoothest wheels I've ever felt are on level 8 cases, Monos, and any bag that features Hinomoto wheels. The Air carry-on's wheels are some of the smoothest I've ever felt, and it also has a wheel lock where you can engage a brake mechanism. So if you're on a moving train or even on an incline, your bag isn't going anywhere. It's a feature that I really hope we begin to see on more bags. A couple of other exterior things to pay attention to. Handles. How many grab handles does the bag have? 1 top and 1 side handle are kind of par for the course. I've noticed many lightweight bags end up saving weight by getting rid of the side handle, which can be really annoying, and it's not something you think about much until you're on your trip and you're like, crap, can't grab it anywhere. Bonus points for handles, or at least a spot to grab on the underside of the bag. Next is the telescoping handle. When you're on the move, this is the part of the bag that you're gonna be in contact with most. Things to look for. How many height stops does it have? If it's only got 1 height stop, it might be too tall to be comfortable for many people. At least 2, but 3 is really nice. Where's the button placement? Is it on top or is it on the bottom? And a very important quality of life feature, how wide is the tubing set for this handle? If it's too wide and you're someone who carries a personal item bag with a trolley sleeve, that bag may not fit around the tubing. I'm seeing more and more bags that look like this. These can be really problematic for 2-bag travelers. Flimsy, unreliable zippers and zippers that snag are a huge pain. I would look for bags with YKK zippers, which are known for their reliability. And if you're looking at clamshell bags, try to find ones that aren't recessed. I like ones that have edge-to-edge seaming that creates a more watertight seal and a flush edge. Another option is using bags with no zippers at all, opting instead for latches, which can be more theft deterrent. For example, the Soul Guard uses latches instead of zippers. All right, what about inside the bag? I would avoid bags that give you 0 options for organization or compartmentalization. For hard-sided bags, look for dividers for the 2 sides that give you a way to keep the contents secure. And on any type of bag, compression straps are a plus. Maybe even hidden pockets for an AirTag or smart tracker. But there can be too much of a good thing. Avoid bags that eat up too much precious space with extra pockets and compartments that you're not actually gonna use. Some of these things could be removable, but you'll want to know that before you pull the trigger. So those were the physical features to pay attention to when you're picking a suitcase, but it's not just about what the bag looks like online. What are you actually getting for your money? I would tell you, don't ever buy luggage that doesn't include a warranty. There are so many great options on the market that offer lifetime warranties covering functional damage to things like the shell, the wheels, the zippers, and the handles. but you're not gonna get a warranty if you buy cheap luggage, which is one of the main reasons I tell anyone who asks me, you're never gonna regret investing in quality luggage. And note, I'm not saying luxury luggage or expensive luggage, but if you travel more than once or twice a year, you shouldn't just be using a $50 Amazon Basics bag. In my experience, you can do really well for $150 to $300, which is often gonna get you better materials, smoother wheels, and that lifetime warranty. Some of our favorites in this range. For hard-sided bags, Monos is very hard to beat. We've used their carry-on for years now. We took it to over 20 countries and it's held up great. Bellroy just released a hard-sided bag that is a mind-blowing newcomer on the market, and it's definitely worth checking out as well. If you're looking for something on the lower end price-wise, Level 8 makes some solid stuff, and so does the brand Quince. And for soft-sided bags, Travel Pro is where it's at. Travel Pro's Max Light 5 is my #1 recommended soft-sided bag, and it's less than $150. The Travel Pro Platinum Elite is a close second. Most of these also offer a generous returns period, which is another thing I would be on the lookout for. A lot of these companies offer a 100-day return policy, which is great, and I recommend travelers take advantage of these to test multiple suitcases at home before committing. Another thing you have to do in this process is read reviews, and I would start with the negative reviews first. What actually went wrong for others? And more importantly, how did the company respond? Look for reviews from people who tried to return the bag. How easy was that process? Did they get their money back or just store credit? This happened to us recently. Check out Reddit communities like our One Bag and our Many Baggers, which are full of people who've put their luggage through months of real travel, and watch YouTube reviews from people who actually travel and test their bags. Hey, wait a second. That's what we do here. So if you want no BS luggage reviews and buyer's guides, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to know our no BS list of travel gear you should not waste your money on, check out this video here. Thanks so much for watching. Happy travels.